However, my understanding was that the addition of Common Core that we were on the precipice of adopting did not include anything relative to the Constitution except the preamble to the Constitution. Is that still in effect? And secondly, I would like to know, Senator, has it come to your side of the House, has it come to your attention about cursive? Because my understanding is that each school in the Fort Wayne Community Schools, as an example, can elect to either teach cursive or to not. And I have spoken with a young woman who is at Northrop High School. She took a test. It was 3 hours. She volunteered this to me. It was a 3-hour test, at the end of which they said, reach around, turn off your computer, and in your own handwriting, tell us why you feel you were called to this profession. And 3 of the 9 women could not write. That's scary. They were taking an advanced test on a computer. They were not fazed by that at all, but they owned up to the fact that they could not write and therefore could not complete the test. Your comments, please, as a group.
To be taught in Indiana for the last, at least last 3 years of my life. And then the bill passes the Senate and it goes over to the House, and the chairman over there, representing Bob Benning, won't give the bill a hearing, so he kills it every year and will not advance it at all in the House. And we try to put it in a conference committee at the end of session. Since it passes one House, you can put it in a conference committee at the end, and then he nixes it every time we try to put it in at the end as well. So in Indiana, you are not required to teach cursive writing. I think it's a travesty. I think it definitely should be taught. And when I hear testimony, every time we give a hearing to this, you hear these people say how your thinking skills and your brain and everything and connecting the letters, instead of having individual printed letters, having the connection and the flow and everything actually makes you a smarter person, makes you think better. There's a lot of evidence from when I hear the hearings that this is good and we should do this. But it's also not in Common Core, separate from our standards in Indiana. It was never part of Common Core either. So, it's sad. I think it's a sad chapter in our learning environment in Indiana today. And other states have done the same thing. Some have and some don't have it.
How about the Constitution?
What we've done in the new standards, which are similar to Common Core, I don't know that is a requirement. I don't know. I have not looked at them close enough to know if that's in there or not. So I don't know. Okay, I'd have to look and see.
Well, many people today state unequivocally that, the Constitution doesn't say anything about God. Oh, really? Check the final statement. It says, done in
the year of our Lord.
In the year of our Lord. Done in conference by the states present on the 17th day of September in the year of our Lord, 1878. And to the, to the independence of the United States of America. That is the first time that colonies were referred to as states, and there were only 12. Rhode Island didn't show up. So there were 12 colonies that became states, and it says, in the independent and to the independence of the United States, which were 12 colonies formerly, of America, to the independence. So, I want to know about the 10th Amendment, because I picked up, apparently, the last copy at the State House on one of my 3 trips to see Chairman Boehning, all of which were to no avail. However, this copy about nullification, and I did hear, sponsored by the 912 Club here, Chris Ann Hall. Yeah, Chris Ann Hall spoke about nullification as a way of overcoming Obamacare, and they gave as an example, we overpowered the Voter ID Act of 2005 because 39 states, the legislature and the Senate side passed legislation to overpower it, as well as the governor signed it. So we haven't heard anything about a Voter ID Act since 2005 because 39 states washed it away with nullification action. Can we do that in our house?
Absolutely can, yes. I've introduced 2-3 bills on nullification, and I can't even get a hearing. In fact, Senator Long puts it in the Rules Committee. And so he controls that. He's the chairman of that. And so he's not allowed those bills to get a hearing. And he is doing the Article 5 method of amending the Constitution, which is a different method of changing, the federal government. So I do applaud. I mean, I would do either one. I like nullification, and I like it just I would like to lower the power of the federal government and take away a lot of their income. If you go back to the beginning of our states, and when we formed our union, the local governments had the largest source of income from taxation. The state had the second most, and the federal government had the least. And that's the way our federal government is designed. But today that is totally flipped, primarily from 1917 when we had those 2 amendments to the Constitution where we allowed direct taxation on personal income of individuals and corporations in America. And then also from 1789 until 1917, the United States senators were elected by the state representatives, state senators, and that's how we kept the federal government in check, because the states could withdraw U.S. senator if they didn't like what they were doing. Then we had the direct election of the U.S. senator that did away with the power of the state government legislature. So those 2 things actually turned that around, so now it's the opposite is in effect, and it's terrible for our nation.
Have we not already succumbed to the Supremacy Clause, Article 6, Section 2, that in the Constitution that simply says any law passed by the legislature, that is the House and the Senate in Washington, is supreme over any law that we have in the state of Indiana, state of Washington, state of Illinois? Well, it seems to me that certain individuals in our Senate have raised the white flag and given up on state sovereignty. And yet that's what that means in the sign-off and signed by George Washington, deputy from Virginia, the Constitution. It seems to me that that's exactly what they said, and to the independence of the United States, the 12th, meaning 12 colonies, formerly colonies, are now states. We've given up on that. Why? States' rights are still here.
Money.
George Washington said, government is force, not reason. Like fire, it is a wonderful servant, but a fearful master.
Yes. 1/3 of all the state dollars that we spend today comes from the federal government. 1/3. So we have a $15 billion budget in Indiana. So we get another $5 billion or so from the federal government every year to supplement that. So they use, I call it financial blackmailing. So they say, well, if you want this $1 billion for education this year, then you have to do this or you have to do that. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but if you want $1 billion, then you have to do this. So that's how they coerce the states with money. It's our money to begin with anyhow. But, I mean, I remember the day I introduced the bill to do away with the state of Indiana taking any welfare dollars from the federal government, just kiss it goodbye and say, we don't want your money. And I remember the chairman of the committee, House Ways and Means Committee chairman, saying, Dennis, this is a joke. You're not serious. I said, yes, I am serious. And he said, well, I want the money from the federal government. I want to get all the money I can. And Mitch Daniels, who was a great governor in many ways in his 8 years, he said, I want every dime I could get from the federal government. That was one of his biggest things. He wanted more money from the federal government, not less, which I disagreed with.
How much support did you get from other senators on your bill for allocation?
There are only a handful, very few, maybe 5 or 6.
Okay, we can probably do maybe one more. Guess that came as Kayvon and Juanita have said, the biggest need with the Friends of Bethany at this point, and you can see we brought in some school supplies and books for the children. We've got a donation of books. We have a donation, and we continue to do this to try to, help facilitate a little bit. Maybe a project is to sponsor one of your monthly dinners, because one thing that I learned about Friends of Bethany is that this is not a residential facility. And they use the church, but the children and the moms dispense out into the community. And I know that she had also, her and Juanita had told me that one of their great needs is people who will mentor, who will help one of these kids in reading skills, just to reach out and try and help. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to, we're kind of closing out the education portion of what we are doing. Judge Davis said last month that, you have to reach the children in order to impact society at the age level that these people are working with. And the breakdown of the family, in my opinion, is probably the most important thing that has happened in our society in the past 50 years. And because if you go back and look at statistics, the statistics of the number of divorces, the number of children born out of wedlock, the number of people who graduated from high school, all of those were much better 50 years ago than they are today. And I think we all have our own idea of why that has happened. In my opinion, it's because they threw God out of the schools. And the moral foundation that told people how to live is gone.
Don't say that.